In this video, I'm going to explain how to download and install the iPEGS app, log in, and then go through all of the features of the iPEGS app itself. The first thing to do is to install the app. To do this, simply go to the App Store on your tablet, click on the search icon and search for iPEGS. You're looking for iPEGS Form Builder Pro. I've obviously already installed this app, but you would just need to press the install button. And that will install the app for you. And this is the first screen you will see when you install the app. You will have already been emailed your login details from the system. If you haven't already done so, please check your emails, click on the link, and you can set your own password. Once you've set your own password, click on the Login Now button and simply enter that. So I'm just going to put in our demo account and log in. You do need an internet connection the first time you log in, because you'll see here what's happening is the app is downloading all the forms that are relevant to your account. Okay, so you do need an internet connection the first time you log in, but after that point you can access and complete forms offline. So this is the iPEGS dashboard. You'll notice in the top right hand corner we've got a log out and refresh button. The app will stay open and you will stay logged in. So if we do close the app down, when you come back to that app you remain logged in. It's up to you whether you log out each and every time. We would normally recommend that you have a passcode on the device itself, but obviously it's optional whether you stay logged in or not. If changes are made to forms by your administrators, you will need to press the refresh button. They would communicate that there's been some changes made. Again, you need an internet connection, but all you need to do is hit that refresh button and the app will make a call to the server and check for any new forms or any changes to forms that may have been made. So as you can see on the dashboard here, we have a number of sections. I'm going to cover all of them in order. The first section is custom forms. So this is where the majority of your forms will be. These are the forms that are created by the main administrator and then distributed to you as a user. So if I click on open, what this does is it gives me a list of folders. And you can see here we have a whole range of folders on here. And if you click on each of those folders, if we click on an example folder here, you can see we've got different forms available. So if I click on a form at the moment, I'll click on this apprenticeship enrolment form. Here we have the form itself. Now at the top of the screen, slightly to the left of the centre, there's a little arrow. And if you click on that arrow, it will give you sort of a full screen mode. Okay, so some people prefer to have full screen, other people are quite happy to have 3/4 screen with the menu at the side. Okay, so I'm going to go into full screen. If you want to close it back, just tap it on the top. So here is our form. Very simple to go through and complete. I'm just going to complete a few fields for you just so you can see how it works. If it's a date, it will obviously pick up a date picker. It's very quick and easy to whiz through and pick your date. We have pick lists and so on and so forth. So going through the form, filling out the form, very straightforward. You'll see this form here is a big form and it's split into pages. So notice at the bottom we have page 1 of 12. If I want to go to the next page, click on the arrow, that will take me to the next page within that form. If I want to go back, click on the other arrow and that'll take me back to that page. Okay, so you whiz through the pages, fill out the form. I'm going to complete a few of these fields. And then once you've completed your form, or let's say you've pre-filled some of the form and you then want to save it, you go to the top right hand corner, there is a green save button. If I click on that now, what happens is when you hit the save button, it will do this sort of a validation check. So in this case, I've missed the national insurance number. Now this is a warning field, so I've got the option to ignore that. Let's say I was in a situation where I didn't have my national insurance number or the person who was completing the form didn't have that information. You could ignore it, or if you click OK, it will take you to that field that you've missed. Okay, so you can see that there's a national insurance number. I'll just put some numbers in there. Okay, and then I hit save. And in this case, I've missed a postcode, but actually I don't know my postcode, so I'm going to ignore that option. And then I've missed a mandatory field. So a mandatory field means that you have to complete that, okay? It's not optional, you have to complete that field. So if I click on OK, that will take me to the field that I've missed. In this case, it was the subcontractor field. I'm going to click the option there, hit save again. I've missed obviously the postcode, which I'm ignoring, and then there's another field that I've missed. This is the signature field, so I'm going to click OK, and that takes me to the signature that I've missed on that occasion. So to add a signature, very, very straightforward. You simply tap your finger on the signature here, writing, and that will open up this little orange menu. So the first thing to do, it's a three-step process. The first thing to do is insert signature. Okay, so this will open up the add signature box, and then simply with your finger or with a stylus pen on the screen, you can just add your signature. Okay, if you're not happy with it, you can press the little X button. The first few times you do it, the first few times other people do it, they might struggle a little bit. Let them have a practice, let them do it a few times, and then once you're happy, click on the done button, and that will add the signature with the date and the time that signature was added. Okay, so that's the first part. Get your signature added. The next step is to print the name within the signature. So to do this, again, you just tap on the signature area. This little black menu will pop up, and the next thing to select is name. Okay, so this is where you can type in the user's name. So you've got the signature, you've got the name, you've got the date and time. And last but not least is face stamp. So to add face stamp, again, simply select the signature area, click on face stamp, and there we have me. And that's how we capture a photo of the person who is signing. Now, the first time you do this, when you first select add face stamp, your tablet will probably ask for permission to do this. So you might get a pop-up that says, are you happy to allow iPEGS access to your camera? Please ensure you press yes. If you press no, you'll probably have to reinstall the app. Okay, so whenever it asks you for permission, always say yes so that you get the full functionality. If for whatever reason you're unhappy with the signature, again, you can just press on the signature area and you can press delete and you can go through the process again. Okay, so click on the signature area, insert signature, tap it again, print the name, tap again, face stamp, take the picture, and there we have it. So I've been through my form. I want to try and save it again. So I click on save. I'm ignoring that missing postcode. And now I'm in a position to save that form. So you've got your folders here. Now what in a lot of cases people do is they'll create a new folder. Okay, so let's say you're completing an enrollment with a student, with a learner. You might want to create a folder with that learner's name. So in this case, I'm just going to put my name. That will create the folder. Oh, in this case, the folder already exists. So let me just create another folder. We'll call this Joe Blogs. Now, there's always a few second delay when you create that folder. So always remember that you've created the folder, but you have to choose that folder and then save the form into that. Okay. So I'm going to click on Joe Blogs, and then I'm now going to name my folder. Well, in fact, actually, I would name it as Joe Blogs. And that form is now saved, and you're always looking for the iPEGS form saved successfully pop-up. Okay, so you know for certain that that form has been saved. And then you can go back to that form at any stage. So let's say you pre-filled some information beforehand, and then you're going out to see the person who needs to complete the form. Simply click on the open button, scroll down to your folder. There you can see there's the Joe Blogs folder. And there is our form. So the form is saved with the name that you've given it, the actual form name, and the date and the time that that form was created. So I can click on that form now, and I can go in and edit it. Now, because I've added a mandatory signature, that actually locks the form down. Okay, so the only sort of feature that locks the form is a mandatory signature. So if I go to this form now and I try and edit anything, I'm tapping on my screen now, you might not be able to see it, but I can't actually edit any of the fields. So what I have to do is I have to click on the edit button in the top hand corner. And what the warning I get then says is that, okay, that's fine, but if you're going to edit this form, you're going to need to sign it again. Okay, so it's just a way of sort of saying if you're making changes to the form, you're going to need to add your signature again. So in this case, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to add in some more information in there. In fact, I'll put the postcode in. Obviously, it's not a real postcode. Hit save, and I'm going to have to add that signature again. Okay, so I'm going to go through that same process we went through before, add the signature, print the name. I won't bother adding face stamp this time. I did mention before, all of face stamp is optional. It's a 3-step process. We would always advise capture face stamp if you can, but as a minimum, add the signature and print the name. Okay, they're sort of the minimum requirements we would advise. So I'm going to save that form. I'm going to choose the folder it's already been created, and because I've already named that form, I don't have to name it again. It's already saved within there. So that's opening forms, filling out forms, saving forms. The other thing to show you is if I pick a different form in this case, let's choose a health and safety form, for example. Now, you may or may not have noticed when I was going through and completing a form before, I'm just going to sort of go through and start completing this form very quickly. What you can do if you have got an internet connection is you can use the dictation function. So you'll notice on your keypad, this is an iPad and it's similar for an Android tablet, there's a small microphone. So if I have got a microphone, I can actually dictate to the app itself. So if I just select this now, I am looking at the employer's insurance certificate and it is valid. So you can see that you can literally talk and it will type what you are saying. It's not always 100% accurate. If there's a lot of background noise or if there's lots of other people talking, it may not work particularly well, but it is there as a feature. Okay, so dictation function, useful certainly if you've got an area, sort of a big area to write information into. So I'm going to go through this form now. That's what I was waiting for. You'll notice a saving your form in draft. There was a little pop-up there. So every 60 seconds or so, your form is being auto-saved in the background. Okay, so this is to try and stop people accidentally losing everything. So let's just say, for example, now I close down the app. Okay, I think, oh no, I've closed the app down. If I open the app, the form is actually still there. Okay, but let's say I hit the dashboard button. Okay, and I've not saved my form. Okay. Your form will always be backed up in the drafts folder. So all I need to do is click on open and you'll notice there's a draft folder there. We've got folder 1 iPEGS and we've got draft. So if I click on draft, there you can see standard 10 health and safety, today's date and time. So that was the form I was just working on. If we click on that, you'll see, yeah, there's the information that we use the dictation function for. Okay, so you can never lose your forms. If you ever forget to save it or your battery dies or whatever it may be, your form will always be in your drafts folder. Worst case scenario, you may lose the very last thing you entered. Let's say you entered something at the beginning of the 60-second cycle. So that's the worst case scenario. But in most cases, it will have saved everything that you've added onto that form. So I'm in that draft now. Let's say I wanted to save it. Actually, I wanted to show you something else. Let's just save it. So if I save that now, I'm going to ignore something there. If I save that into the Joe Blogs folder, we'll just call this Joe Blogs again. That form then gets moved from the draft folder into the Joe Blogs folder. So just to show, if we go to draft now, you'll see that standard 10 is gone. And if we go to the Joe Blogs folder, you can see there's the Joe Blogs standard 10 form. Okay, so don't ever panic, don't worry, you can never lose your form. The only way you can lose your form is if you lose your tablet or if you deleted the iPEGS app. So please do not ever delete the app unless we tell you, unless the support team tell you to do so. If you delete the app, you do lose all of your forms that are saved on there, okay? So that's always a sort of a last minute or last ditch attempt if we're having any particular problems. So I've saved the form. One thing something else I wanted to show you on a health and safety form. Let me just see if I can find one. This is an example of a health and safety form. I'm just going to see. So one of the great features about iPEGs is you can take photos and add them to the form itself. So again, if I click on add photo, you can choose a photo that you've already taken. So you choose your album, or you can choose the camera. So if I choose camera, I'm just going to take a quick picture. It will take a second or so for the picture to be taken. You then need to choose the image size. So people sometimes forget at this point to choose the image size. I'm going to choose medium, and then you select done, and that will add the photo to your form. Again, the first time you use the photo field, you will probably be prompted from the app to say, are you happy to give iPEGS access to your device camera? Again, please always say yes as part of that. So we've created our form. The next thing we need to do is we need to export it. Okay, we could be offline at the moment. There's no sort of, it can't automatically upload to the cloud if you've got no internet connection. So once you get back to the office or you get home and you're ready to export those forms, you click on the export button. You'd scroll down and look for your folder. So we'll look for Joe Blogs. And here we have two forms. So I can choose both of those forms. I can choose just the one. And the next thing I need to do is then choose the format. So if we click on the select format option, you'll see 6 options. The most common option is going to be PDF. Okay, so that's where we can convert the form to a PDF. You can export in Excel and Word. The only thing to be aware of if you do export in Excel and Word is it will remove any signatures automatically. This is just because the forms are immediately editable. So just be aware if you ever export into Excel or Word, I'd only be doing it for forms that don't require a signature. We've got CSV. Obviously, CSV is important if you're looking to export that form and import it into a CRM, but that can actually be done at the sort of admin level. We can do batch imports there. Watch the other video on that if you want more information about batch CSVs. XML, but we've also got something called an iPEGS document. So let's say, for example, I've completed my part of the form and I need to send that form to someone who's based in London or based in Scotland or based in America, wherever it may be. I could export that iPEGS document via email. And then when I send that email, as long as the other user has an iPEGS account and the iPEGS app, that will open and that will automatically import into the iPEGS app, and they can then continue working on that form. They can sign it off, whatever it may be. So iPEGS forms are really used for collaborative form filling or scenarios where you're going to need to continue working on that form within the app itself. But in most cases, it's going to be PDF. So let's choose PDF. So we can then, as I've just shown, export via email. That converts the forms into a PDF, and you could then send that copy to the customer, to the learner, back to your head office, back to your admin teams, to yourself even. Okay, so you can email your forms. You can obviously do this when you're offline, so it will still send the email, but the email will obviously sit in your outbox. Just be aware to always check that's been sent. We've got other options where if you've got a company Dropbox or company OneDrive, you can upload the forms directly to your own cloud-based system. Or what we would always recommend is to submit to iPEGS, to the iPEGS portal. So if I hit submit now, you do need an internet connection for this to work. You'll see file upload successfully. If there is no internet connection, you'll get an error and it will say that the form has not been uploaded. The great thing of submitting your forms to the portal is not only can your administrators, your admin teams access those forms, but because you've submitted the forms, you've also submitted the data. And that's where teams can then extract that data into a batch CSV, into a single CSV spreadsheet, and then import that into your CRM or whatever other systems you may have. Okay, so opening forms, completing forms, exporting forms, very straightforward. Now, because the forms are saved locally on the app, after a period of time, you will, things will start to fill up. Generally, we don't see storage being an issue, except if you've got forms with lots of photos, lots of signatures, etc. So you would need to come up with your own internal policy of, you know, how often you go through and delete forms and folders. So within the manage folder here, we can click on edit and we can completely delete a folder. So we can completely delete that folder, or we can go into the folder and we can edit and we can delete individual forms. Okay, just please be aware, once you've deleted the form off the app, it's gone. There's no way we can recover it. So always make sure you've exported it via email. Please make sure you've submitted it to the portal or uploaded it to your own cloud-based system. Okay, so that's how you can go through, manage and delete forms. So that's our custom forms section. We've got something called feedback forms. So feedback forms are in exactly the same sort of layout: open, manage, export. The main difference with feedback forms is that they're in a fixed format. So they're in a 1 to 5 or yes and no format. So if I just show you there, so that's sort of the 1 to 5 layout. So a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being strongly disagree to 5 being strongly agree, or yes and no. So if we click on a yes or no survey, you can see there it's yes or no answers. So it's completed in the same way as the custom forms. It's just in that fixed format. And again, you just export those in exactly the same way as you would with your custom forms. You can choose your formats and you can export via email, Dropbox, OneDrive, or iPEGS. The main reason that feedback forms are in a fixed format is because we've got built-in reporting. Okay, so if we click on the reports tab and we click on feedback forms, let's choose these ones here. What we can do is we can generate a bar chart. And what that does is it calculates an average score of those answers. The great thing about this is you can quickly visualize what the results are. So in a 1 to 5 scenario, in most cases you're going to be wanting to score a 3 or above. In this case, we can see, right, question 2, we're scoring below a 3. Have we got a problem? Do we need to act? And what we can do is we can look at the table of results and we can see what that question is. Okay, we can see here, you know, the tutorial, people have felt that it hasn't been that helpful. So do you need to make a change to that? Again, you can export the table via email or to Dropbox, and you can export the bar chart as well. So if we wanted to export that via email now, we can choose PDF, and again, you could then send that to your line manager or whoever it may be who needs to see that report. Okay, so feedback forms, you can export the actual forms themselves, that's not a problem. But you can also generate reports as well, which is also very useful. Registers are very similar. Again, they're in a fixed format. So if we click on open, we've got 2 types of registers. In fact, we'll create one. So the registers are created on the app itself. So if we wanted to create an individual register, an individual timesheet, this is where you can collate hours spent on a particular subject. So let's just put Joe Blogs in here. Joe Blogs. We can add additional fields. So let's say we want to put in a lesson, for example. Let's say it's a student-based scenario, and we could then say, right, it's maths. And then all you do is you simply add rows to this as you record the time. So we're going to say, right, it's today's date, and Joe Bloggs has spent 2 hours in the classroom. And any notes, you know, you could put in here, we'll just put notes. Okay, and then I can continue to add fields as I go along. So say, right, okay, this is the next session, the following day, we spent 4 hours and we had a professional discussion, for example. Okay, so you can just go through and keep adding your fields. You can then save that. Once you've signed the register, that sort of locks it down. Okay, so at that point, it's almost like you've completed the register for that case. You can't really add anything else. We can save that. And again, what we can do is we can export it. So we can go and export that timesheet, or we can generate reports on the total number of hours spent. Okay, so that's individual timesheets. For group timesheets, so think of a classroom-based setting, meetings, whatever it may be. We'll call this meeting. What you do is you add your attendees once. I'm not going to do it now, but you add your attendees once, and then you can create a new session each time. So if I just go to a previous session, let's go to this. So you can see we've had lots of previous sessions. I'm going to create a new session now. We'll call this session, I don't know what number we're up to. We'll call it 15. Then you choose that session, and you can see again we're in this sort of fixed format. So we would choose the date, we would choose the start time, which we would choose the end time of that meeting, and then we just say who's present, who's away, who's on holiday, sign it off, as we would do with as normal. And then we save that register. Okay, so we've saved that session. Again, we can export in exactly the same way as before. We might want to export all of the session details. Again, same formats, same options to export. But again, we've got a reporting feature. So if we click on reports, we click on registers, let's choose maths. That's the wrong one. Let's choose the group session for maths. And again, we can generate a pie chart this time, so we can look at the overall attendance. We can choose a bar chart, and we can also choose a table of results. Okay, so again, it's just another way of capturing the data, but being able to do something with it instantly. So that's feedback forms and registers. Again, fixed format, but works in exactly the same way. The other feature we have is a notepad. So I'm just going to create a new notepad. So we'll call this meeting minutes. It's a good example. So it's a notepad. So the idea behind this is instead of you sitting there in your meetings or in your one-to-ones or whatever session you're having, instead of sitting there with a pen and paper taking notes, why not take your notes on the iPad? Take it within your notes here. Okay, so I can be typing away. Obviously, I'm not that good at typing. We can use the dictation function. So when we use the dictation function, it will type what you are saying. It's not 100% accurate, and you'll notice that I've slowed down my speech a little bit just to try and ensure that it works. I'm just going to stop that there. It's not always 100% accurate, but you can see it captures a lot of what's going on. Really, really good for one-to-one sessions, where you want to capture what's being said. I can also sign this. So let's say I want to sign X. So we'll say, right, I'm going to sign X, and Joe Bloggs is going to sign Y. So again, you've got that flexibility to add signatures to the notes itself. So I can save that now. We'll save that in the test folder. But the key thing about this is that we can immediately export that. So if it is meeting minutes, we can easily email that to everyone in the room, even before they've left. We could email it to our customer, to our student, whoever it may be. Or it might be that you want to email it to yourself, okay, but you want to email it as a Word document because you want to be able to edit it. You want to be able to continue working on those notes when you get back to your laptop or your PC. So that's Notepad. We've been through reports. As I said, you can go through feedback forms or registers. There is an option to import external documents, okay? We try to avoid this, but let's say you've got a PDF and you need to add some more information to it. You can import that from your email. And the way that works is you simply open your email, tap on the document, and you will get an option that says import to iPEGS, and that will import that. And you can sort of, think of it almost as writing on top of the PDF. We can't actually extract that data at any time. We have a My Documents section. Again, if you just want a higher level view of what's going on, obviously you might end up with a lot of folders. This is a slightly clearer view. You can see all my folders there. You can check notes and so on and so forth. So it's just a higher level view, but you'll also notice there's an export history option there. So if you want to click on export history, it's a log of everything that's been exported and what method and when. Obviously, once the form has left the app, let's say via email, we can't guarantee that it's been sent, but at least there's a log. So if you think, God, did I actually send that form? You can go back to it and say, yeah, actually, I did export it. I exported it via email. Let me check my outbox to ensure that form has actually been sent. So that's the iPEGS app. If we go to settings, generally you don't need to mess with the app settings. If you go to app settings, you can adjust clock mode and you can turn autosave off. Some people found it a bit annoying, a bit frustrating. It's on by default. Personally, I wouldn't recommend switching it off, but you have got the option to switch it off if you want to. All the other settings, obviously cloud settings, if you are going to be uploading to Dropbox or OneDrive, you link to your account from there. Header and footer settings, I wouldn't worry too much about that. That'll be done by your administrator. And if you do ever get stuck, you can simply click on support, click on the support button, send us an email. That'll raise a ticket with our support team and they'll get you going. So that's it. That's pretty much everything that you need to know about the iPEGS app. One other thing I want to show you very quickly, if we just go to settings, for those of you that have got an iPad, it's very similar with Android as well. If you're struggling with your dictation function, if you go to settings in general, click on the keyboard, you'll notice at the bottom there is an enable dictation feature. I'd also recommend that you switch everything else on there: auto capitalization, auto correct, check spelling, etc. Utilize the features within within the device itself. And the only other thing is, if you go to the iTunes and App Store, again, it's very similar for Android. Always ensure you've got automatic downloads on for apps. This just means that if we update the app and it goes live on the App Store, it will automatically update on your iPad. So that's it for this demo. If you do get stuck, if you have got any questions, feel free to get in touch. Email our support desk, support@ipegs.co.uk, and we'll get back to you if you're having any problems.